I'm sitting with Mike Scott, who is the Libertarian Party candidate for the U.S. Senate from the state of Maryland. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So why are you running? Let's start with that.
Well, I mean, it's a twofold thing. The first was COVID scared me, and I don't think COVID passports scared enough people because they literally locked down the nation, and people are calling that a minor inconvenience. And it was just the largest infringement on civil rights and human rights that I've ever seen. They literally pushed an experimental drug on us when there were other options. And then with inflation going the way it is, I worked my whole life to be able to afford a house and hang out with the kids. And now I'm looking at a future where they can't do the same thing. They may never be able to afford a house. And it's horrifying. And nobody seems to want to fix it. And if I don't at least try, then I'm doing a disservice to my children and their children.
So who are your likely opponents, or who's the senator you're running against now, first of all, and then the other party's opponent?
Well, that's one of the reasons I ran is Ben Cardin is retiring. He's not coming. 90-some-odd% of the time, the incumbent wins. And then when they don't, the person who raises the most money wins. And the two nominees that are going against me are Angela Alsobrook, she's the Democrat, and lockdown Larry Hogan, the former governor who locked down the state and mandated the jab. They are both political powerhouses, and they are both fundraising gods. I have never seen anything like it. But the internet is flat. I can reach out and touch the people, and my message is pure. I am not a great messenger, but the math always has its day. We don't need politicians in D.C., we need mathematicians. We spend $100,000 a second.
So let's start with the largest expense of the U.S. government in terms of elective expenses, and that's the $850-plus visible billion-dollar Pentagon budget. What are your thoughts on that?
It's horrifying. Was it $2.5 billion a day or so per day? And that's not really the worst of it, though, because the debt, interest on the debt, just almost equals our Pentagon budget, doesn't it, nowadays? And people don't realize it. We're borrowing another $1 trillion every 4 months, in under 4 months now. It's horrifying. I'm a constitutionarian. I actually retired military. I was enlisted, then I was an officer, and the Constitution never said we were supposed to have. In fact, what it says is you can raise an army, but no appropriation goes past 2 years. We were never supposed to be an empire. We have people beholden to money and special interests, and now foreign interests. And we have 700 to 750 bases in 80 countries and presence in maybe twice that. It needs to be cut down significantly. The entire federal budget does. The entire federal government needs to be cut down because it's unsustainable. We are about to go bankrupt as a nation, and nobody's talking about it.
So the two members of the Senate that are the apparent power brokers in there, anyway, for Democrats, Chuck Schumer, for the Republicans, Mitch McConnell. You begin day one in 2025 in the Senate, and they start taking up a discussion of the Pentagon budget for fiscal year 2026. What exactly are you going to be saying to them?
They're going to be a little upset with me, but we have to be realistic about these things. Let's say I can get in. Let's say Mike Scott wins. By the way, Mr. Scott's going to Washington. I'm going to win. But let's say I get in. There's only so much damage I can do as a single individual, even in the Senate. A senator is powerful. I'll be able to impact a lot more than Congressman Paul did, Congressman Ron Paul. I'm not going to say anything different than he did. But he was one voice out of the House. I'll be one voice out of the Senate. We honestly need at least 3 to 7 to affect the changes I'd like to affect. But even alone, I will be able to slow it and grow it and hopefully inspire and tell you the truth and show people what's behind the curtain so we can maybe get people angry. Because frankly, if you're not angry now, I don't know what it'll take to get you in there.
And then there are the special appropriations that seem like regular business for Ukraine and Israel. What would you do with that?
The first bills I put in, all of them, they're all getting shut down. I'm putting in term limits first. I'd love to end the Fed. Representative Massey put that forward, and I think that's the best thing because right now it's a popularity contest powered by money, and if the banks are out of it and they're no longer beholden to money and lobbyists, we need money out of these elections, and we need a SCOTUS who is not beholden to special interests and getting bribed by billionaires. The entire thing needs to be torn down and stripped to the bone and rebuilt honorably, for lack of a better term, because it's rotten, and it's rotten to the core, and it was never supposed to be such, but in a popularity contest powered by money, you get pathological personalities. I'm not sure if that answered the question. I can give you term limits in the Fed, shrink the military significantly, and I'm trying to shutter government agencies, shutter them. I'm trying to end federal agencies and cut down the taxes and the budget.
Let's go to the economy. What are some of the things you would recommend to try to get, to try to fix it?
The economy is the way it is due to government interference. Healthcare accounts to 62 or 67%, almost 2 out of 3 bankruptcies. We are in trouble. We have to end the Fed because they've printed some obnoxious percent of our money in the past 4 years, and it's led to almost 25% devaluation of our currency. The economy's messed up, and I am impacted by the decisions made on the Hill because I do my own grocery shopping, man. I've seen it. $70 worth of groceries cost $125 now, and growing, and they have no plan to fix it. What I would do is shrink government and let a lot of that stuff handle itself because a lot of it is high due to government interference. That's colleges, that's hospital stays, that's insurance, that's pharmaceuticals. A lot of that stuff is overly expensive directly due to the government interfering in the processes.
And in terms of reducing the debt?
People hate it when I say this, but when I say in the Fed, they've been fleecing us for 111 years, I wouldn't pay them a dime. I'd kick them out, tell them they're lucky to leave with their lives, and be done with them. But that's probably not going to happen. So what you can do, one, stop borrowing. We got to stop borrowing. We got to understand the truth, and we got to stop borrowing. That means we got to stop spending. We got to stop sending supplementals. We got to stop $2 billion a day appropriations. We have to stop spending. We have to stop giving migrants, irrespective of status, access to Social Security, access to welfare, and that does not mean let these people starve and I'm saying the federal government is the worst place for a lot of that stuff, and it should be pushed down to a much more local level. There's a guy in Baltimore who feeds his community, gives away as much food as the Maryland Food Bank, almost, at least in that area. And he does it for less than $500,000. And the Maryland Food Bank's top 4 employees was a $1.2 million operation. So for the cost of 2 employees, he's got 5 employees, 20 some odd volunteers, and feeds his community because he decided to. I am not saying don't feed people, don't house people, and don't give people health care. I'm saying when the federal government interferes, it adds regulation, it adds cost, and we the people suffer.
And we have right now facing record foreclosures and evictions again. This is, 16 years or 14 years, whatever, after 2008. Yeah, 16 years. Record, over that record.
What was the question?
So this is a condition that exists now. What would you do? What would you advocate as a solution to the problem, both in the immediate and the long-term sense?
I wasn't actually aware. I know that my cousin's in real estate. I know that a lot of corporations are buying up housing. I know that a lot of foreign governments, there's a lot of Chinese guys at auctions just buying up houses. I would have to look into it a lot more before I saw it, but honestly, if you end the Fed and you take out a lot of the regulation, a lot of this churn will work itself out. And it has to be pared down, and you have to do it in under a term, because if it goes cross terms, then it'll never happen, because they'll just wait you out and then outspend you. So there has to be some fairly draconian measures to get this stuff right, but we have to do it. We literally can't afford not to. And I just don't know why people haven't started to realize the truth. that red and blue are not on our side. We need a gold rush in Senate. We need libertarians.
And what would you say finally to people in Maryland to encourage them to pull the lever for you or mark the box or however they do it?
Oh, I got a ton of taglines. I call one Lockdown Larry. I call Miss Alsobrook, Angela Alsobach. But we don't need, they're politicians. They're professional politicians. They are amazing. The last thing we need in D.C. is more politicians. We need mathematicians. We need people who understand the truth. Red and blue has got me black and blue. Vote gold, y'all.
Mike Scott, thank you very much.
No worries. Vote libertarian.